Chicken for Breakfast, the podcast where we talk about the basic fundamentals of life and perspective to, well, us. Today we have a very special guest, Andy. What's up?
Not much.
Andy,
Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. We've been trying to get you on for a while, actually, since like the beginning of Chicken for Breakfast to now. And you're finally on for our last episode of season 2. There might be an extra episode at the end, we'll see, but you were on our last episode, so we did fill you in. And there's a reason you're on the last episode. So, we're continuing our Scout Is series, and we're talking about a Scout is Reverent. That's the last point of the Scout law that we have not gotten to yet. So, first of all, let's go over the definition of what a Scout is Reverent means. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. Alright, so, a Scout is reverent towards God. Scouting is a Christian-based organization, but there's another couple stipulations to it. A Scout is faithful to his or her religious beliefs and respects the beliefs of others. That's a very important one. The Scout Oath begins with duty to God, so it does. The Scout Oath is different from the Scout Law. And the Scout Law ends with reverence, and it's the 12th point of the Scout Law because it cannot be relegated to an afterthought. So it should be like the highlight. It should be like the biggest thing. Which, if you ask me, I feel like you should put it first on both of them if it's like the most important thing. But I see the afterthought process as well. Like, I don't know. Thoughts on that?
Well, anything that's at the end of something closes it out and finishes it. And so when you've started with something, finishing with the same thing is always a good way to close it out.
That's true. It's like
the bookend idea.
Yeah.
It holds everything together.
Exactly. So, you are a very religious person. I know that from our personal conversations, personal experience, and I know that we have our own beliefs on religion, and we try to avoid that in some situations, but here we are not avoiding anything. This is our most controversial episode here on Chicken for Breakfast because of the whole respect thing. So I'm a Christian. You're a Christian. We've had great Christian conversation, which that might sound weird to some people, but to us it's like, no, it's normal. So I find it, we were just talking about it actually when I pulled it up. We're talking about how it says reverent to God, capital G, because like I said, it is a Christian-based organization, but it says also respecting other people's beliefs, and everyone should be faithful to their beliefs. So, and you run a teen center that is also Christian-based, but respects other people's belief in something, nothing. So it's very fascinating because what's the idea behind it? Like how do we do that without feeling? How do we not throw that judgment onto people in terms of like not just religion but just in general?
Well, it's interesting because just a couple of days ago, I have a guy that helps us at the teen center who is a Catholic. And I am a Protestant. You and I are Protestants. And when I first met him back in 2016 and he got involved helping us with the teen center, I found out he was Catholic. And I said, teach me about what you believe and how it's different from what I believe. And we've had some amazing conversations. And so he came and helped me on Friday and invited me to go to Mass with him. Unfortunately, the Catholic church there in town ended up not having Mass Friday morning. So instead, we sat at a table there at the teen center and he explained the meaning of Mass and the meaning of all the stuff that he does. And we began to have, we actually ended up not getting any work done. We began to have this wonderful back and forth conversation of him describing the beliefs and the traditions of the Catholic Church, and then me describing why we as Protestants do something different. And it was not so much me trying to tell him he was wrong or him telling me I was wrong, but a learning experience between us. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I see, especially in Christians, that they don't do, that isn't being reverent to someone else's beliefs. They want to just determine that you're wrong, and they want to drive it into you that you have to change, and they have no interest in learning anything about what you believe. And in this relationship with this gentleman, I have learned so much about the Catholic way of doing things that I didn't have right. Like and been taught all these different things, and he has been able to open my eyes that a lot of those things were not, that they're not accurate. And so I can look at him as a brother, a Christian brother, even though he looks at things differently and does things a little differently from me, because I've taken the time to be reverent to his beliefs and allow him to show me why he believes what he believes. So I think that's a huge thing, is just being open to just listen. You don't have to be open to changing your own beliefs necessarily, but at least listen and let the other person do some talking.
I think it's good that you bring that up, because I know you've watched a lot of our episodes, but we talk about, respecting other people, positivity, spreading positivity, and I think you brought up a good point, that just because it's not what we believe, and this is not just religion again, this is not a completely religious conversation, but what you believe is what you believe, and no one should ask you to change that, no one's going to let you change that. But it is always fun to respect what other people believe and, learn something. I mean, just because you guys don't, agree on everything, just because you have two separate religions, that doesn't mean you can't get along. In fact, I know that you do, I know who you're talking about, so, and that was very interesting, and it's very important to learn how to respect people, because I think a lack of respect and the feeling of being right, no matter, like I think my religion's right, we think our religion's right, but there's a bigger picture there. That's not how you do it, that's not how you convey that, and I think all too often, there's a lot of controversy, which is gonna lead us right into our next point. There's a lot of controversy in religion and politics. When we do podcasting, when we do radio work, when we do anything, I've always been, and you know this about me, no politics and no religion. I try to completely steer away from that, because it's very offensive. People get offended very easily because they can't take the criticism, they can't take the respectful conversation. And I mean, there's so many different situational things about it, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed, because I've noticed, and this is a little side point, I don't want to get too far into it, but Christianity is very controversial within itself, and I feel like the biggest obstacle Christians have a lot of times is themselves, but that's like the entire world too. I think that if we all learned how to just respect each other, it would be a totally different game. So yeah, what do you think? What do you think about this?
I completely agree with you on that, because I like what you said, that there's a lot in, Christians are sometimes their own biggest obstacle, and what I run into a lot in what I do in the ministry I'm in is Christians trying to prove they're right all the time, and I thought about it just the other day after the conversation with a gentleman. There were some things that we definitely have different views on, and I thought, one of us is wrong, and I'm not going to be arrogant enough to say, well, I know I'm not. There are some things that I am determined, I know that I'm right in my own beliefs, but there are very few. There's not a lot of things that I'm going to say I absolutely believe for sure that there's no chance I'm wrong. There are a couple, but if Christians would just take the attitude that I need to set the example in my life and the way I believe and the way I act, and just not worry about trying to change somebody else. If somebody sees something in us and it's back to reverence, that we're being reverent to our own beliefs, like it says there. If somebody sees that we're sincerely doing that, then they'll want to know. They'll be more interested in finding out why than if I'm like, go find somebody and say you're wrong, and I'm gonna do my best to change you.
Right.
So.
And I think that is very crucial, and I think that's why that exact thing happening is exactly why it has such a bad rap. Mm-hmm. Religion and politics, because everyone's got to be right. Yep. Everyone's got to be right, and that's what keeps this momentum of just hatred and offense and everything else. That right there, that's a perfect example. So steering away a little bit from the whole religious aspect and respect of other people, I did want to quickly go over how we can be reverent to other people's beliefs, because like I said, you run a teen center. I consider you someone I look up to for that reason and more, especially in the religious aspect. I mean, we've had, like I said, countless conversations. So you get teens coming into age 15 all the time, and whether or not they are Catholic, whether or not they are atheist, whether or not they are Christian, you love them all the same. And I can see that, and that work shows that, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, even the worst ones, even anything, it's like they're always there, and it's the safest place for even the not safest people. So where does that fall in? Is how do we take that as an example of how we can be reverent in Scouts? Like what's the biggest, yeah, there it is, what's the biggest point that we can take from this kind of thing?
Well, when we're interacting with anybody, there are all kinds of things that we have no idea what they're going through. We don't know what I mean, even just what kind of thing might have happened that morning. Maybe they ate something for breakfast that's not agreeing with them, and it's making them have a bad day. Or maybe they woke up and had forgotten to put their laundry in the dryer, and all their clothes are wet, and they're walking around in damn clothes. Knowing that everybody has a set of problems that they face, and understanding that it's not always that they're just a terrible person. Maybe there are some terrible people. I haven't met anybody that I would say is absolutely just born terrible and they're an awful person. Everybody's got good in them somewhere. And so you look at it and say, there's a reason they're in a bad mood today. There's a reason they're acting this way, and maybe there's bigger reasons that makes it act poorly more often or most of the time. But they're a human being that deserves to be cared for and loved. Like you said, we do try that some people are harder to love, but we try to love everybody and let them know that they're cared about. And it's just just walking through Walmart. I mean, you go up to the register at Walmart, and the person in front of you is blowing their top about something. You don't have to jump on their throat and start blowing your top back at them. You can be respectful and it's interesting. We keep bouncing between reverence and respect, and I think they're very much hand in hand. They're inseparable. And so just understanding that the person who is in your circle circle of space at that moment is a human being deserving of respect, and that we can be reverent towards anything that's going on in their lives. That's huge. And if, like you said, if we were all to do it, I mean, imagine what the world would be like if everybody were to look at the person across from them and say they deserve to be loved.
Absolutely. While you were saying that, something popped into my brain. I love the song "Imagine" by John Lennon. I love that song, and it's just it's a fascinating song because, like, imagine, right? Imagine a world without religion. Imagine a world without chaos. There's a whole point, and some people view that song as the exact opposite of how I view it, which I respect. I understand why you could see that. Like, imagine there's no heaven. Imagine there's no hell below us. Anything like that. I see how that could be taken the wrong way, but the way I see it is like, religion, it matters. It matters to me, but it doesn't matter to everyone. I don't walk up to people, and whether I should or not, I don't just start conversations regarding my religion or my political beliefs. In fact, I really don't like people who do that. Like, you'll just be having a casual conversation, and they'll bring up politics just out of nowhere. They'll be like, oh, do you see what's happening on the news? Or they'll just make these uneducated comments, or even educated, I guess, but they make these stupid comments about politics, and it's like, I don't really follow it. I don't really want to hear it. And it's hard for me to explain what I'm talking about, but we know, like, if you've been in that situation, you know what I'm talking about. You know that someone just starts talking, and you're like, I don't want to hear it. I don't care. You don't even know what's going on. It doesn't even affect you. My biggest thing is people defending other people defending other races, and we're kind of veering off a little bit here, but people defending other, religions, or people defending other religions. It's not defending their beliefs, it's defending them as people. It's not whatever, and everyone can stand up for themselves, so they don't need you to step in if something's going on at Walmart. But what I'm getting at is, without all of these negative things, imagine what our world is like, and we can't imagine, because we know that the lack of respect, the lack of anything is just, it's never going to happen. We're never going to get to that point. But it's very important that we are, scouts in all of these 12 points that we've been over, especially this one, because I think, like you said, they go hand in hand. And whether or not, and this isn't a podcast where we sit down and we try to preach to you. This isn't a podcast where we try to convert you to Christianity or anything else. I respect all religions, most religions. I have to respect them. But like if you murder somebody and say that was part of my religion, I'm not going to believe you. Just saying. But
I'm glad to hear that.
it's very important to have that respect in terms of humanity and civility. If that makes sense. It's not about race, religion, politics, what you eat for breakfast, unless it's chicken. But
well, it's interesting you said that about respecting other religions. Well, something that I think a lot of people, the misconception people have is that you can't respect a religion without agreeing with that religion, and that's not the case. I was traveling one time and I saw a Muslim man at a truck stop doing his prayers facing the east, and it's respectful to not get in between, like walk in front of him, go around him. He's facing the east for a reason, and so you just try not to get in the way. I don't have to agree with the reason he's facing east to not do that. It's respect for him and a reverence for his belief that what he's doing is what he needs to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have to agree with his reasons why to respect and be reverent towards that. In the situation just this past with the gentleman that I was talking about, we did end up going into the Catholic Church. There was a lady there that allowed us to go in, and he dipped his fingers in the holy water and crossed himself. And I waited until I had a chance to ask him if I was something I needed to do or should I not do that because I wasn't a Catholic. And he said, "No, you're fine. Come on in." And so just taking that moment to say, I respect your belief. I'm reverent towards this place that is important to you. I didn't have to be, changing my own beliefs to do that. It's just respect and reverence. We can do that without being converted, I guess.
I think that's something just like, it's so hard to grasp, but once you get there, you get there. Like I'm no better than you. I'm no better than anyone. I'm no better than someone who's not a Christian. I'm no better than any single person, no matter what I believe religiously, politically, whether or not I eat chicken for breakfast. It doesn't matter. We're all I think that's where the huge disconnect is well, if I don't agree with you, then I've got no business with you. It's like, why do we all have to agree to respect each other? We can agree. Well, I did not word that right. We can agree to respect each other, but we don't have to agree for respect to be there. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's the big thing. That ties into everything in chicken for breakfast. And that's why it's the last point, because everything afterwards, there should be no afterthought. Mm-hmm. Reverence and respect go hand in hand. And my very first episode was about happiness and success. Actually, it was Welcome to Chicken for Breakfast, but the first official episode was success and happiness. And then the next episode was about respect. There was a Respectrum episode. That was way down the road, but that doesn't matter. So it's good that we're ending on the note of this can be applied to religion. It should be applied to religion because it is reverence. But there is no afterthought to reverence and respect because, like you said, they do go hand in hand. And it is very important to, even if you don't like somebody for what they believe, you don't have to like that. That's not your job to like everything about the world. You're not going to. Ask John, and he's going to tell you there's a lot going on that doesn't matter. But I mean, look at the actors. Look at the we have actors that are all different sorts of religions, but you don't know anything. Like, you still like them. They're still great at what they do. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. They're still like Will Smith versus Chris Rock. You saw that today. The religious beliefs don't necessarily matter to what happened there, but it's just a lot of different actors have different religious beliefs. But that I don't need to know that. I don't know 80% of the actors' religions, and I don't need to know that for them to be a good actor. Right. So I don't need to know that you're a Christian to respect you. I don't need to know that you're a Christian to just treat you like you're a person, if that makes sense. Is that any afterthoughts on that?
I would like to add one more element to the reverence thing that I don't think we touched on. And you as a scout, when you're out in nature, being reverent in nature, it's a big thing. Just being reverent to the earth, to the world around you, not littering, not being wasteful. That's a form of reverence that everybody should be able to agree on, regardless of your religion. So yeah, I mean, if we were to always be reverent in nature and being careful about that, that would overflow in every other part of our lives. So yeah.
Resourcefulness.
And I think nature in general would probably love it if us humans were out of the picture and they could just have their world back.
I agree. Speaking of that really quick, we do have a PSA coming up very quick here. Earth Day is April 22nd, so we did an audio podcast, so there's not going to be any video. I'll figure something out with that, but we do have a podcast coming out about Earth Day. It's not very long, but it's a nice little PSA about littering, so stay tuned for that. And it does tie into A Scout is Clean, which is our previous episode. You can go check that out. It'll be popping up here any second, but that's all the time we have today. Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.
This is a conversation that could definitely, spark a lot of different conversations. And again, I do want to highlight, this is not me saying that my religion is better than anything, or I'm better than anyone. This is a simple conversation about respecting each other, whether it be religion or not. Respecting each other and just cut the crap. Let's be decent people. Let's be decent human beings and just love one another and do what we're supposed to do, whether or not you're politically educated or whatever else. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.
And I know it might sound weird, but I like chicken for breakfast, and as crazy as that sounds, at the end of the day I hope you will too.